Take your time.
Put assist for you. That way, you can go from song to song. All you gotta do is hit the space bar to start the next song.
Say that again.
I got it on assist mode, so when you get ready for your next song, just tap your space bar.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, if you need me, I'm just tap on the glass. I'll be right over.
All right. Wow. Feels like I'm coming back home. In the studio at WCBT, Terry Buffalo. Got a lot of interesting information to bring to you, a different perspective on things that are happening throughout the Roanoke Valley, eastern North Carolina, and small town USA. A lot of folks are feeling the same kinds of pains. And it's global. You know, in some of the stories that I picked out, I'm just going to hit on about 4 different things on this evening. And I want to tell you about my people that support me over in Littleton, North Carolina, over at Williams Food Mart at 327 Ferguson Street, up there in Bucktown. Got the coldest beer around in Bucktown at Williams Food Mart, 327 Ferguson Street. So Littleton, you go in there and you tell Conway that I was telling y'all that he's going to have a special $6 menu coming up just soon. You know, you want to make sure you check that out. A lunch for $6. Look forward to it. Ask him about it. Tell him Buffalo sent you. Listening to the sound of Curtis Mayfield, just to bring it in, let you know what the theme is, what the background is on, you know, what I'm talking about. Some of you know me, you know. That don't mean you like me, but some of you know me. We're going to get some phone calls coming up over the coming weeks. I'll be here every Thursday night, 5 o'clock, Thursday evening, I should say. You know, when spring comes in, you know, we don't know what the New World Order is going to be bringing with the supposed to be sticking to this time zone now, not springing ahead. We'll see how that's going to work. That's going to mess up your rhythm. You know, and it's funny. I was listening to something on YouTube on yesterday. They're talking about what's going on over in China, and they're talking about the protesters over in China. And all of a sudden, you had all of these correspondents on talking about how they want to monitor China and their human rights violations, and that they don't like the idea that they've been silencing the protesters in China. I said, but y'all been doing that here to us for 300 years. So what, you know, all of a sudden you want to go make sure Chinese got their human rights protected, you know? So, you know, I just thought that was really interesting, you know, for them to, you know, to be so concerned about protecting the rights of Chinese protesters who got this mass protest going on because of the mask mandate that China has imposed on them. You know, as far as I'm concerned, that's their business. You know, but they had one. I was watching Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, and Chuck Todd was just, you know, going on, and all his guests were talking about how atrocious that China has been with people who are voices of dissent. You know, people that will protest what the Chinese government is doing, not just there, but all over the world. But the issue that they're concerned with is these mandated lockdowns, you know, that they're claiming. And, you know, and they're talking about people who are protesting against the government, how they're silencing them. And they haven't said a word. They try to keep it as quiet as they can about Jam Master Jay, you know, from the NFC, No Effing Around coalition. And he got 7 years, and they said he was pointing a gun at a federal agent, and that was like they were on the roof and he was on the ground. And I guess if the gun was pointing in the air, it's going to be pointing somewhere. I don't know what the law is about where the gun is supposed to be pointing, but they gave him 7 years, and he was a voice of dissent here in the United States, And so here you have these inequities that are popping up all over the place, and so you know and who's going to talk about it? Who's going to bring these things to your attention, or so that you can get an idea of how to balance out what your perspectives are and what they're going to be when you look at what's going on in the politics of the world. And so I'm also going to do what's happening locally, what's going on right here in the Roanoke Valley and Halifax County. I'm glad to see that the staff on the Board of Commissioners has taken a drastic change, and it's more like what it's supposed to be, because we're living in a county that's like somewhere like close to 60% black, and yet the governing bodies, were not reflecting that up until this past election last month in November, and now that board is now the majority black. Not to say that that's going to change anything, but it could raise some old questions that might need to be re-looked into, and I want to talk also about how you can see to it that that your rights are protected and that your governance is protected in forming groups of people to go and sit at the board meetings and to speak to the issues that concern your community. This is nothing new. This is a community action project that can take place. And I was mentioning also in my promos that they can be happening anywhere in any town throughout the United States, any town USA, and I might do a segment on that, to find things, practices that people could be using to see to it that their government does what they said they were going to do while they were campaigning, in the areas of codes and enforcement and planning for the towns, the municipalities, and each one deserves to be watched. And now I think this is a really special time here because the board changed. We lost two of the county commissioners that they had formed a pack. I think it was about 12 years ago, and they just like swooped in on the at-large seats. And when they swooped in on the at-large seats, that gave Roanoke Rapids basically 4 seats on a 6-member board. And so everything that Roanoke Rapids wanted, Roanoke Rapids got, and people would just assume that the rest of the county is being covered. But the board meetings were always, the votes on anything controversial was always 4-2, 4-2, 4-2. And so now that makeup has changed, and quite frankly, I had a kind of a rapport with Patrick Quarles. I could talk and reason with him, not to say that he would do anything that would go against what the rest of the board was saying, but at least he was someone that could be talked to. He decided to step down, and so his chair has been filled. And also Reeves Manning, who quite frankly, I'm glad to see him go. There should be some term limits or age limits or something, on people holding on to ways of living that are just so outdated and antiquated that we can't get any equity here. The economic development that comes into, that's another issue. The economic development projects that come into this area, they don't reflect the benefit of the majority of the people who are living in poverty. So we're a tier 1 county, and then you had a group of county commissioners that the bulk of them were only representing the minority wealthy people in this area. And that's the same thing that goes nationwide. Who has the most money is where democracy is represented, and that's just the bottom line to it. And anyway, that was just a couple of things to be addressed and can be focused on. And if you had a committee of even just 5 people that were, willing to go and sit and actually see to it that the people are represented in those governing bodies, we would see change, or at least see truth. and then let people know what's being voted on and what the county commissioners are doing for the county at large. One thing that they did, the last thing that I saw that they had voted on and presented as an economic development project, is that they said they were bringing a manufacturer into the area, and they did a public presentation of this project, and nobody questioned them about anything regarding the project. They wouldn't say what the name of the company was. They wouldn't say what product that they would be manufacturing. And they said they were going to employ 10 people, and they were going to pay them $250,000 for 5 years to bring this company in, and nobody in the room asked the question, who are they? What are they going to be making? Where are they going to be located? Who's going to get 10 jobs that's going to cost the taxpayers $250,000 more? It was actually $264,000 a year for 5 years, and nobody stood up and asked them, what are you talking about? You're not going to tell us what the product is? You're not going to tell us the name of the company? And yet this is an economic development project that's going to be supplemented with taxpayers' money. And these kinds of things, I believe that people, should want to know the answers to. What is it that you're doing? When is it that you're doing it? And how can we have some input in it? They've done other projects here like that. And as a matter of fact, if you got all the records for the Halifax County Economic Development Commission, you would see that they've lost $1 million over the 17 years that I've been living here in Halifax County. And this is the kind of thing that there needs to be representation that's going to see, because you look at how many jobs, how many even full-time jobs that the county could create with $264,000 a year for 5 years, and we're in a tier 1 county, and you're going to take that money to represent employment for 10 people. Anyway, let's see. We're going to keep this moving right along. I'm going to call Percy back over here so we can keep this thing moving.